Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of Valpo Football Weekly, presented by Lakeshore Bone and Joint Institute. Brandon Vickery with you. Glad to be joined by the head coach of the Valpo football program, Landon Fox, as we talk about a victory on Saturday and we get ready for the start of PFL play this coming Saturday at Morehead State. And let's start with one of your honorees from the PFL this week, and that was your kicker, Ryan Hawk. Had a career-long field goal in Valpo's longest since '03. Had a pressure-packed field goal in overtime that extended the game. I think I want to talk about his story with your program. Like, where did Ryan Hawk come from, and how does he developed into one of the strongest legs in the PFL?
Yeah, so it's been fun to see him develop. He sat behind some really good kickers, in terms of Brian Bartholomew, who is, you could argue, is one of the best kickers to come through Valpo. There's been others, but very, very good. And then just to see his maturation, his development over time, and then stick with the program. I mean, he's a senior, really getting his first action in terms of field goals. He was very good in kickoffs last year, 10th in the country in touchbacks. So just to see him continue to develop, knowing like, hey, I do have the leg strength. I have the ability to do this, and then the consistency to stay with it we're not talking a year, 2 years. You're talking three years now that he's been able to go out each and every day and work his craft. And for me too, people ask me like, tell me about the field goal, 50, 2, 4, whatever yards it was. Like, I just sent him out. Like, I knew it was a longer field goal, but had the utmost confidence in him when, hey, it was a situation to kick it. Hey, send him out and kick it. And I think there's a couple of people in the headsets were like, "Oh, we sure?" And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. Let's go. And the thing is, Brandon, if you watch it on film, that thing's good from 60 plus. That was a good kick.
No doubt. The other player who won a weekly award from the PFL was Michael Mansoray. You've had a 100-yard rusher in 3 straight weeks now. Let's talk about the offensive line and their role in that. How has the O-line progressed from a year ago to this season?
I would say their development's been, a huge part of the reason we've been able to run the football. But I would say, if I gave them a lot of credit over the last 2 weeks, and rightfully so. They're the ones that really created a lot of holes for us. I'd say this week was okay. We can play better up front than we did this week, and I do credit the backs. Michael and Ryan. They did a nice job breaking some tackles, and then the ability to block for one another was really good, which created some opportunities for those guys. That 50-yard run, great block by Ryan Mann. Then Michael Mansrip, was able to break it, and so. Yes, the development of the offensive line has been huge, and they've done a nice job. But we can play better than we did on Saturday.
Talk about the number of close games or another close game. I think you had a few less gray hairs when I met you 6 years ago than you do now after all these close games. But let's talk about the scheduling aspect of that in the non-conference. Like, what's your philosophy in terms of bringing in a team like Roosevelt that's going to give you a close game, and over the course of your time here, you played those type of games versus games you might win by a lopsided margin. So, how do games like that prepare you for PFL play?
Yeah, I think you want it to be competitive, to see exactly where your team's at and continue your development as a football team. People I think sometimes misconstrue the fact that, hey, Roosevelt, you haven't really heard that name, but I mean, they're a Division II program. They give 36 scholarships out, and so they're going to have some good talent. And we found that out on Saturday. It's a local opponent. They're playing an FCS opponent, which I believe was the first time in school history that they're going to be extremely excited for that opportunity of local Division I, which creates an excitement for the game. Something that I was really trying to get our players to understand leading into the week, and we could do a better job in terms of understanding that, like, people are going to be excited, to play, and I thought Roosevelt did a nice job.
So the challenge flag on Saturday as we go into PFL play, and although there wasn't the evidence to overturn that particular play, this is new for the PFL to have the opportunity for you to challenge plays. How nice is it to, as we enter league play, to have that replay component available? And how do you approach that new element of your role as head coach of deciding whether or not to challenge a play?
Yeah, I think just leading into the game, I mean, it's awesome that you do at least have that opportunity to go look at it. It may or may not, be definitive in terms of what they see. but it is awesome for us to at least have a chance. And, you know, being new, there's some nervousness to it, I guess. Of, okay, what can you challenge? What can you not challenge? You know, you have to have a timeout. If you challenge and you lose it, you lose your timeout. So there's a lot that goes into it versus the maybe the easiness of when we played at Northern Iowa and Youngstown State, where it's automatic booth reviews that, you know, they're looking at it for you, where now you have to make the decision. It's just clear cut, you know, in terms of whether you can get it challenged and they can see it. For us, Saturday was relatively easy. It was end of the game. We didn't really need the timeout moving forward. There's only 5 seconds to go. So it was a relatively easy decision. But I think moving forward, Brandon, I think you're really, like, to your point, you're gonna see some times where you're gonna have to make some tough decisions whether you want to challenge or not.
You've had a lot of firsts and first time in a long time in your time leading the program, and one that's still been elusive is a three-game winning streak, and you have a chance for that on Saturday. It'd be the program's first since 2003. Morehead stayed under the direction of a new head coach. What can you tell us about how the Eagles look and what you have to do to get that done on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's at the forefront of our team. Like they know that, and I think that's good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them knowing, like, hey, they would like to create a streak, and it's exciting for us in the program. But you do talk about Moorhead. I mean, they are a what I see as a team that is a team. You know, that's something that they've done a nice job of. They're in the right spots. They are playing team football in terms of, like, it's not selfish. Let's just go out and make a play. You can see a buy-in to the scheme, like, hey, we play for one another. This is how it works. So I was very impressed when I turned on the film of not only good football players, but making sure, like, hey, I'm going to do it for Morehead State, the football team, not just as individuals.
There is the head coach of the Valpo football program, Landon Fox. Again, PFL play gets started this week. Game kicks off at noon Central Time. You can watch on ESPN Plus from Moorhead, Kentucky on Saturday. We'll talk to you again next week on Valpo Football Weekly, presented by Lakeshore Bone and Joint Institute.